The diamond bracelet caught the candlelight as Lydia fastened it around Claire's wrist, her fingers lingering with maternal affection she'd never shown me. My throat constricted as I watched my mother-in-law clasp the jewelry, the same woman who'd handed me a Target gift card 30 seconds earlier with a smile that said this was generosity. "Happy birthday, Jennifer," she'd whispered, pressing the plastic into my palm like it was precious. Now Claire laughed, her head tilting back to expose the elegant line of her throat, and Grant's hand moved to the small of her back. Not professional, not accidental. The gesture of a man who'd already claimed what didn't belong to him. The dining room mirror reflected all of us, Lydia glowing with satisfaction, Claire radiant in her victory, and me, faded, small, clutching a $25 gift card while my husband touched another woman at my birthday dinner. "My name is Jennifer, I'm 38, and I used to teach marketing at the University of Tennessee. This is the story of how I stopped asking permission and started taking what was mine. For 6 years, I'd believed the lie Grant sold me, that a good wife didn't need her own career, her own money, her own voice. We married 6 years ago, and 2 years into our marriage, he convinced me to leave my job, promising security and partnership. 'You've earned rest,' he'd said, making surrender sound like victory. But rest became erasure. My paycheck disappeared into joint accounts I couldn't access. Credit cards came with spending limits and questions. 'Do you really need that?' Every purchase required justification. Every desire became negotiation. Lydia reinforced the cage with elegant words. As director of the White Hope Foundation, she spoke about legacy and image, about how a good wife protected her husband's reputation. 'That's how you help him succeed,' she'd say, and I'd nod, believing sacrifice was love. The Target gift card was still in my hand when Grant left the table, following Claire toward the kitchen. Through the doorway, I watched him lean close, whispering something that made her smile. My fingers tightened around the plastic until it bent. That night, after everyone left, I found Grant asleep in his office, laptop still open. A bank statement glowed on the screen. One line made my heart stop. Transfer to Haven Sun Holdings, Panama, $180,000. I photographed it with shaking hands. The next morning, I asked about it while making his coffee, keeping my voice light and curious. He didn't look up from his phone. "It's an investment. You wouldn't understand the paperwork." The same dismissive tone he'd used for years. The same assumption that I was too simple to grasp his world. But I understood enough. That afternoon, while he was at work, I searched his office systematically. Every drawer, every file, every hidden folder. The bank statements told a story of money flowing through shell companies in 3-month cycles. The White Hope Foundation's tax records, publicly available online, showed Lydia's signature approving charitable transfers to the same offshore accounts. In his email drafts, I found Claire's message. "The Foundation's transfer is complete. We'll move the next set Monday." 6 years of marriage, 4 years since I'd left my career, 4 years of being told I didn't contribute, didn't understand, didn't matter. And all along, they'd been using the charity his mother founded to launder money. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror that night, my reflection backlit by harsh fluorescent light. The woman staring back wasn't crying. She was calculating. In my old desk, buried under years of abandoned dreams, I found a notebook from my teaching days. On the cover, a quote I'd written for my students. "Knowledge is the only thing they can't take from you." I photographed every document, every bank statement, every transfer record, every email. The camera shutter clicked in the silence like a countdown. The next morning, I drove across Nashville to meet the only person I could trust. Marlon Pierce, one of my former students, now a financial crimes investigator. I'd kept in touch over the years, watching him build a career on integrity, while mine collapsed into dependence. He studied the photos on my phone for 20 minutes, his expression darkening with each swipe. When he finally looked up, his voice was steady, but grim. "Jennifer, you've uncovered a federal money laundering operation. If you move forward, you have 2 choices. Cooperate with the FBI or go down with them." The coffee shop suddenly felt too cold, too bright. What does cooperation mean? It means wearing a wire, recording conversations, gathering evidence while living with people who might hurt you if they find out. He leaned forward. It means your life becomes evidence in a federal case. I drove home through afternoon traffic, his business card in my purse. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Financial Crimes Division. Rain started falling, blurring the windshield, and I thought about Ethan, my 21-year-old son, finishing his senior year at Vanderbilt, who believed his father was a pillar of the community. At a red light, I called Marlon back. Set up the meeting. 2 days later, I sat in the FBI field office surrounded by gray walls and the smell of old coffee and institutional cleaning products. Assistant U.S. Attorney Sarah Hawkins sat across from me, her eyes sharp but not unkind. Mrs. White, we'll need verifiable evidence to open a case. If you cooperate, you'll receive immunity and protection. The cooperating witness agreement was 10 pages long. My signature at the bottom would destroy everything I'd spent 6 years building. The marriage, the social standing, the illusion of security. Or it would destroy the lies those things were built on. I'm not doing this for revenge, I said quietly. I'm doing it because my son deserves to know the truth about his father. The pen scratched across the paper. Sarah handed me a black pen, heavier than it looked. Recording device, she explained. Click the top twice to start, 3 times to stop. Send files daily through the encrypted app. Marlon's voice was gentle, but firm. Tell no one. Not your son, not your friends. If they suspect you're cooperating, you won't have time to call us. When I got home that evening, Grant was in the kitchen, his eyes searching my face. Where were you? I hung up my coat, keeping my movements casual. Lunch with an old colleague from the university. You remember Dr. Harper? He relaxed, pouring himself scotch. The one who couldn't keep a husband? What did you two have to talk about? I smiled faintly. Old times. That night, I clicked the pen twice while Grant was on the phone with Lydia in his office. His voice carried through the door, clear and incriminating. The Panama account clears tomorrow. Move another $150 to Haven's son by Friday. Lydia's response crackled through speakerphone. And Jennifer? Oblivious, she's too busy planning Ethan's graduation to notice anything. I stopped the recording, returned to the hallway, and uploaded it through the encrypted app in the darkness. I stared at the ordinary pen in my hand, plastic and metal transformed into a weapon. For the next 8 weeks, I lived a double life. Every morning, I played the dutiful wife, making breakfast, asking about his day, smiling at Lydia's condescending advice. Every evening, I uploaded recordings of phone calls, dinner conversations, foundation meetings where they discussed charitable distributions while planning their next transfer. Grant's watch appeared on the dresser one morning, odd since he never removed it. When I picked it up to move it to his nightstand, I noticed a tiny red light blinking beneath the face. He was recording me, too. I placed it back exactly where I'd found it and began performing for his surveillance. I searched cabinets anxiously, made calls to lawyers where I discussed divorce, but never money laundering, acted like a woman unraveling under pressure. Let him think I was weak. Let him think he'd already won. Lydia visited every Thursday with her Hermes bag and her pretense of concern. The White family has always valued dignity, she'd say, straightening the throw pillows in my living room like she owned the space. We don't air grievances publicly. Of course, I'd reply. Serving tea, I knew she'd criticize. I understand completely. I understood that she'd built an empire on fraud. I understood that she'd raised a son who believed women existed to be controlled. And I understood that both of them had underestimated the woman serving tea while wearing a federal wire. The 8th week, Claire sent me an email by mistake. Subject line: JW Panama Transfer Confirmation. She'd meant to send it to John Wallace, another conspirator, but the attachment revealed every hidden account, every shell company, every fraudulent transfer for the past 3 years. I forwarded it to Sarah Hawkins before Claire could realize her mistake. That weekend, Lydia hosted a reconciliation party at her estate, inviting 200 guests to celebrate family unity. Grant gave a speech about the White legacy, about building futures and protecting what matters. The crowd applauded while I stood beside him, smiling, wearing the wire that recorded every word. In the powder room, Claire cornered me, her face pale. You read my email, didn't you? I washed my hands slowly, meeting her eyes in the mirror. There are a lot of JWs in Nashville, Claire. Maybe check your contacts before assuming. Later, from the library where I'd stepped away for air, I heard Lydia's voice through the door. If Jennifer opens her mouth, I'll handle it. The White family protects its own. I clicked the pen twice, capturing every word. That night, a text from Sarah Hawkins. We have everything we need. Arrest warrants issued for Monday's asset hearing. I stood at my bedroom window, watching Nashville's lights cut through the darkness. Grant had once told me I'd never understand his world. Now I documented every corner of it. On Monday morning, the courtroom was packed, filled with reporters and the polished faces of people who'd toasted our marriage at charity galas. The hearing was supposed to address our asset division in the divorce proceedings I'd quietly filed 2 months earlier. Grant sat in the front row beside his lawyers, that familiar, confident smile carved into his face like it had been purchased with his suit. Behind him, Lydia clutched her Hermes bag, and Claire sat rigid, still believing in the protection of the White name. I wore a simple gray dress and no jewelry. Let them see weakness one last time. Grant's attorney stood first, his voice smooth and practiced. Your Honor, Mrs. White has no career, no assets, no contributions to her husband's success. This is simply a vindictive attempt to access wealth she didn't earn. Each word landed like a calculated insult, but I kept my hands folded, my expression neutral. Then my attorney, Michael Reynolds, stood slowly. He placed a sealed white envelope on Judge Eleanor Green's desk. Your Honor, this is a supplemental filing submitted by my client, verified by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Tennessee. The room went silent. Grant's smile faltered. Lydia leaned forward, her knuckles white on her bag. Judge Green opened the envelope, reading line by line. Her expression shifted. Confusion, then disbelief, then something almost like amusement. She laughed, sharp and ringing, breaking the courtroom's tense silence. Oh, this is good. This is very good. Grant's voice cracked slightly. Your Honor? Mr. White, Judge Green looked up, her eyes bright with something between outrage and satisfaction. According to federal reports, your wife has been cooperating with the FBI for 8 weeks. All your offshore accounts, your foundation transfers, your shell companies, they're now part of a federal money laundering investigation. The courtroom doors opened. 4 FBI agents entered, warrants in hand. Grant lunged halfway out of his seat. This is insane. She doesn't know what she's doing. Actually, I said quietly, speaking for the first time all morning, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking back the life you stole. Claire stood abruptly, her voice shaking. I didn't know. I was just following instructions. Signing falsified documents makes you an accessory, Ms. Donovan, Judge Green said crisply. You can explain your ignorance to the federal prosecutors. Lydia's composure finally shattered. My son is innocent. This is a conspiracy orchestrated by a bitter, ungrateful... Your signature is on the Panama files, Mrs. White, one of the agents interrupted, stepping forward with handcuffs, along with your son's. Grant's face went gray as they cuffed him. He looked at me across the courtroom, and for the first time in 6 years, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. You don't understand what you've done, he said hoarsely. They'll destroy you. I met his gaze steadily. I understand perfectly. I've spent 6 years being destroyed. Today, I chose to do it on my own terms. The cameras flashed as the agents led him away. Judge Green struck her gavel once, her expression calm but satisfied. Justice, she said softly, has its own sense of timing. 3 weeks after the arrests, Nashville couldn't stop talking about the Whites. Headlines screamed from every newspaper and broadcast. Real estate mogul Grant White arrested in federal laundering case. White Family Foundation under investigation for fraud. Charity scheme exposed after wife's cooperation. The city that had once celebrated them now treated their name like poison. I watched it unfold from the house by the Cumberland River, the only asset proven to be legitimately purchased before the laundering began, awarded to me in the divorce settlement. Judge Green had signed our divorce decree the same day she approved the asset division, officially dissolving a marriage that had been dead for years. The silence of being legally single felt foreign after years of living with arguments, orders, the constant hum of fear, Marlon called with updates. They've seized all the illegal assets, the legitimate holdings purchased before the fraud, about $350,000 in value, remain under your control. You'll have what's rightfully yours. Nothing more, nothing less. Justice written in numbers and signatures. Cold, final, and fair. The ripple spread fast. Lydia was stripped of her position at the foundation she'd built her identity around. She was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for conspiracy and wire fraud. Claire accepted a plea deal, 10 years for aiding the scheme she'd sworn she didn't understand, and was transferred to a minimum security facility to begin serving her sentence immediately. And Grant, after a 4-month trial, received 18 years in federal prison, his empire reduced to a case file and a prison number. Ethan came to see me that afternoon, his face carrying the weight of someone forced to unlearn a lifetime of carefully constructed beliefs. "I thought you just wanted his money," he said quietly. "I thought you were being vindictive." "I know," I said gently. "Your father was very good at telling stories, but truth doesn't need an audience. It stands on its own." He hesitated, then spoke the words that must have been weighing on him for weeks. "Dad warned me once. He said if you ever turned against him, he'd destroy you." I smiled faintly. He was right about one thing. When you have nothing left to lose, you become very dangerous. A letter arrived from the FBI 2 days later. "Your cooperation prevented a financial collapse in Tennessee's real estate sector and exposed a network that had operated for 7 years. Your courage made this possible." I didn't feel courageous. I felt like someone who'd finally stopped believing the lies. The sun was setting over the Cumberland River the evening I opened my new consulting firm, White Strategy Group. The $350,000 I'd kept, clean and rightfully mine, would fund something better, a center for women trapped the way I'd been, teaching them financial literacy, asset protection, and how to recognize the signs of economic abuse. Ethan agreed to handle community outreach. His quiet presence beside me was proof that healing was possible, that truth could be rebuilt into something stronger than lies. That evening, an anonymous email appeared in my inbox. "You may have won, but you've made enemies." I read it once, then clicked delete. Enemies meant I was alive. Enemies meant I'd stopped being invisible. As twilight painted the river gold and purple, I stood on the porch in a white shirt and jeans, feeling the wind move through my hair. No designer clothes, no expensive jewelry, no performance. Just me. Finally, completely me. Grant had once leaned close in that courtroom and whispered that I'd never touch his money again. He was right. I didn't touch his money. I built my own. The camera of my life pulled back, leaving only the image of a woman standing at the river's edge, free at last. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.